Kevin Roth here of RotoGrinders, and today we're going to talk about the RG Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that RotoGrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on RotoGrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/Discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels. And we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your RotoGrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @RotoGrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Crunch Time here on RotoGrinders MLB edition. I am Justin Van Zuden, aka STL Cardinals 84, and we've got an interesting Sunday of baseball on tap today. I know we've got other sports going as well. You got a 4-game NBA slate that's getting ready to get going, so certainly plenty of action on the sports ledger today. But we'll take you up to MLB lock here. With 10, 11 game slate, depending on what site you're playing. I am joined by one Keith Eister on one side. Keith, what's going on today?
Yeah, not much. A lot of games today, but not a whole lot of pitching. So there's a couple guys up top, and then there's a couple guys in that value range who we're not quite sure. We were discussing Patrick Corbin a little bit pre-show, so he may be in play today. That's never a fun thing. But yeah, pitching is pretty light. Plenty of bats to love on a big slate here. Should be a good one.
Yeah, it's not the best slate. I wrote it up today, so if you read the article, obviously you know my thoughts on that and the pitching. But it's just a tricky one to navigate. You've got most teams finishing up their second turn through the rotation today, which means we're seeing a lot of back end starters. We're still not seeing pitchers get extended a whole lot, so. It's just tricky to navigate. I mean, I know Verlander pitched 8 innings last night, but I think he was only at like 85 or 90 pitches. So it's not like we're seeing guys get up to 100, 105 pitches. And that just makes the pitching even more tricky to figure out on a normal slate, let alone a slate where you've got a bunch of back end starters and fill-in guys. And it just gets to be tricky. So we'll try to navigate that ugly pitching slate for you here in just a minute. I've got Will Priester alongside as well. Will, how you doing this morning?
I am doing good. Haven't had a real interesting conversation. Heard your son is now becoming a real fan. That's probably more exciting than this slate that we're going to talk about today. But glad to be here and try to help everybody make a few dollars on this beautiful Easter Sunday.
My soon-to-be 12-year-old was pacing around last night in the ninth inning of a one-run game and checking the standings to see where the Cardinals were at after the game. And, we got 6 months. We got about 5.5 months to go. But we're heading down. We usually try to go down to St. Louis for 3 or 4 days every year. So we're going down over Memorial Day weekend to catch and play the Padres. So it should be fun in a month and a half or so. But yeah, I've got a monster alongside me. I'm not sure whether that's good or bad, but and it's interesting because our youngest has like no interest, and our oldest is just like me. So everybody's different. But in any case, we'll start by breaking down the FanDuel slate for you. Make sure you check out the 150K MLB Squeeze, $5 entry fee, chance at 30K up top. And you can also sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a regulated sports betting state. New users can get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. But check out FanDuel Sportsbook. And we'll start by breaking down the FanDuel slate here. The one difference between the two sites today, the Texas and LA Angels game is on the FanDuel slate. It starts at 2:30 Eastern. That game is not on the DraftKings main slate. So that is the one difference between the sites today. And the Detroit-Kansas City game has been postponed due to rain. So make sure you don't play any of the Detroit-Kansas City players. So that's it for the housekeeping. And we mentioned it's a tricky pitching slate. So you basically got Wheeler and Manoah and Alex Wood as your most expensive pitchers, but guys really aren't going deep into games. So do we prioritize these guys where the depth at pitcher is really thin today? Especially on FanDuel where you only get one pitcher. I mean, Will, are you trying to get to one of the top guys? And if so, who do you like best?
Well, that's something we were also talking about before the show. As the day has progressed and I started seeing lineups come out, do I feel like Manoah is probably the best option? Like for sure. Like I think he's a much better play than Alex Wood. And I like Alex Wood. I think if I knew Zach Wheeler was going to go or have a fairly normal leash, Zach Wheeler could probably get through 7 innings today, but I just don't think he's going past 6. And so for the price difference, I think I'm starting to just like Nestor Cortez, especially after this lineup came out for the Orioles. And I don't think Cortez is going – he may make it 6 innings if he can go clean, right? But I think he's got strikeout upside. Like in 5 innings, he may have 7 or 8 strikeouts at least based on this lineup. And so that's why after the lineups came out, I really had let's go with somewhat a change of heart. I initially started out feeling like Manoah was absolutely my guy. But for me, I look at this Baltimore lineup and then over the past couple of seasons, so Cortez has a 28% K rate, but the K rates of this team based on the last few seasons, Mountcastle 26%, Mancini 20, Santander 30, McKenna 35, Torino's 31, Chris Owens at 16, Gutierrez at 30, Mateo at 27. Like he should have a field day if he pitches reasonably well. I kind of fell in love with Cortez after the lineups, and I think I'm on the right track here.
Yeah, Manoah and Cortez are 2 of the pitchers that I've tagged up there in our lineup HQ. You can see that on the screen share. And it's just such an ugly pitching slate. The thing that makes me feel pretty secure about Manoah is that they did let him throw 89 pitches in his first start, which I'd venture to guess is probably the highest we saw from anybody the first time through the rotation, getting almost up to 90 pitches. So if Manoah gets to 95 or 100 today, he gets to face Oakland. And I know Oakland's been okay so far, but this is going to be a bottom 5 lineup by the time all is said and done this year. Toronto is a huge favorite today. So I've kind of got a Manoah and then Cortez in terms of my exposure. And then, you're basically mixing and matching the hold your nose, value pieces and GPPs if you're trying to get a little bit different. But Keith, where are you looking at pitcher on FanDuel today?
Yeah, you made a lot of really great points about Manoah. Nice long leash in that first one. Toronto has a little bit of a weird schedule to open the season here. I believe it was 10 or 11 games in a row. And they had burned up their bullpen a little bit in his first start. So that's part of the reason he got extended, but it was still nice to see, regardless if there was some circumstance around it.
Yeah. And Ryu only pitched 4 innings yesterday, so they're kind of in the same boat. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Great point. I really like Wheeler as a pitcher. He was dealing with a little bit of a shoulder in spring, though, and only threw 65 pitches in that first one. This is a great matchup against Miami, but for me today, just because of what we saw on the leash in the last time around, it's definitely Manoah over Wheeler. I like Chiefs' call on Cortez as well. Great matchup there with Baltimore. But I'm prioritizing Manoah today. I love that matchup against Oakland. Love the K stuff from Manoah, and think he's just a safer option today.
Yeah, I think we're kind of all on the same page there. And then Keith, I'll stick with you. It's if you're trying to find somebody to pivot to in tournaments. I mean, is there anybody that stands out here as somebody who can, surprise and on a slate where you're unlikely to see a bunch of huge scores? Is there a cheap guy who is capable of matching some of the others?
So I do like the pivot to Wheeler in tournaments. Just want to get that out there. He still has plenty of K upside. Even if he only gets 80 pitches today, he could hang with Manoah and Wood. So I do like that pivot to Wheeler, despite a little bit of question around his pitch count, but I would save it for tournaments only. Down in the cheap range, David Peterson is interesting to me. I did not see what he did in it, how many pitches he threw in that last one. So
yeah, he replaced Walker. That was the game where Walker got hurt, and I think he threw 58 or 60 pitches, something like that.
Yeah, so definitely some leash concerns there, which is not ideal for FanDuel scoring. But a great matchup here against Arizona. Not the highest strikeout team, but I could see him lasting into the 6th inning potentially in this game, just on efficiency with ground balls and things like that. He needs his command to be there. But if you get a lower strikeout from one of the top guys, he might be able to match him. I'll let you talk about Bailey Over. I see you've got the tag on them. He had a nice leash last time out after being limited a little bit last year. And then Patrick Corbin is the other guy who's very interesting due to his matchup and going into a great ballpark to pitch in Pittsburgh. Obviously, he's been really bad for quite some time now, but this matchup should be a winnable matchup for him. Great park to pitch in. He's had 2 tough offenses to start the year. Started with the Mets and the Braves. Was decent against the Mets, went really poorly against the Braves. But at that price tag, he should have a pretty decent leash. I think he's in play here.
I think you could throw a AAA lineup up there against Corbin these days, and he'd still give up 5 runs and just disappoint. I don't know that guy. I've been banging the fade Corbin train for a long time, and it's worked out pretty good. So I get it though. It's a thin pitching slate, and it is the Pirates who have been, they've been hitting Satsugo cleanup, which just lets you know what you need to know about their offense. So it will be interesting to see. Yeah.
Can I plug something in for what it's worth?
Sure.
I am going out on a limb. I'm going to take Corbin over K's today. Like I think he gives up some runs.
1.5.
I wish that's a sportsbook special. He's at 4.5. I'm actually going to take the over because a couple of their best hitters are out today. No Hayes isn't hitting, and what's the other guy's name? I can't remember. Yeah, Hayes and Reynolds are out. I said, well, time to take a shot here with Corbin. So at 4.5, I'm taking the over. And then you mentioned Ober. Like I've got him at 14.5 pitching outs. I think he goes 5 innings today. So I've got the over on that as well for anybody that's into the prop world. And then Cortez is at 4.5. I think he's at 5.5. So on some books, I've got him at 4.5. So that's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I think Ober is interesting in GPPs. I know it's a tough matchup against Boston, but he's got a good arm, good strikeout stuff. And it's tricky because you generally think, well, he's a better play on the multi-pitcher sites. So maybe you play him on DraftKings. Well, he's 9K on DraftKings. So that makes it a little, tougher to stomach on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, like, well, it's a single pitcher site, but it could be a wonky pitching slate of a couple of the chalk guys don't hit. I mean, you just you never know. So I don't mind Ober as a GPP sprinkle. So all right, start digging into the bats here on FanDuel. Obviously, you don't have to roster a catcher, but we can kind of dovetail a little DraftKings discussion in here at this point too. If you're looking for a catcher today, obviously you see a lot of guys get Sundays off, but Will, you got any catchers you like today?
I mean, I think if you're trying to stack the Yankees, you're going to get Kyle Higashioka at 2.2K. If you like that stack, I mean, and the Yankees aren't really expensive anyway, but, being able to sprinkle him in if you want to play Judge, you want to play Stanton, that can alleviate some of it. Also, no, he's playing a little bit later today, so never mind on that. That's kind of one of my sneaky catchers, if you will. I think the Yankees have a pretty good day, but the ownership is there. But Higashioka is at about 1.2%, I think, or really low, and everybody else is in the 20s. So, if he's the guy that sends one out of the park and everybody else kind of singles and doubles you to death, you're going to be sitting pretty because he's getting no ownership.
And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe some of the Yankees come in a little under owned compared to what we have projected. They have kind of flopped as chalk the last couple nights. So, recency bias comes into play maybe a little bit there. But Keith, your thoughts on catcher, and then I'll let you move to first.
Yeah, I don't think you need to play one on FanDuel. It's not a beat position as usual. Gary Sanchez is cheap on DraftKings though. Yep. He's got that matchup against Waka, who has reverse power splits, gives up some power to right-handers. So decent spot for Sanchez. Zach Collins hitting 6th for the Blue Jays is super cheap as well. I like him. And JT Realmuto, if you've got some money to spend here, great option here against Eliezer Hernandez.
Yeah, I like the reverse splits for Sanchez against Waka. I think that's a very good angle to take today. I really like Minnesota. I think they match up fairly well against Waka. The lineup isn't overly expensive either. If you let's see, let me do that here quick. Sort on FanDuel. So basically you got Arias leading off at 2,800, Correa 3,400. He's the most expensive. Kepler hitting cleanup is 2,900. Urshela, if you're into the reverse splits, Sanchez, they're all fairly cheap. So don't mind the Twins today as well. All right, who you like at first base there, Keith?
Let's see here. Vlad is probably my favorite option. Just one of the best hitters in baseball. Play him anytime. I think it's a good position to spend up today. I really like the high end guys. Hoskins is in a good spot. I like Brandon Belt a good amount, and Pete Alonso. So I'm just hunting power here. I'll throw Jose Abreu in there as well. I think it's a good day to spend up. If you need to go down, I would say Rowdy Tellez is probably the best cheap option, but good day to spend on for some power at first.
Yeah, lots of upside there at the position for sure. And you get a guy that hits a couple homers, could be a slate breaker. If you're interested in somebody like Schwarber on FanDuel, he's got the dual position eligibility there. I'd probably play him in the outfield. All right, Will, who you like at first?
Well, I really like the Yankees today, and so you've got DJ LeMahieu who on FanDuel, it's got like 3 positions, so I'd probably just kind of jam in LeMahieu there. I also really like the Giants today against the. I know it's a cold game, right? But Brandon Belt at 3,600, he's a guy that I'm interested in. I don't have to sell you on Vlad, so I'm just gonna skip over him. Like he's an auto play for me. Someone who's not going to get a lot of ownership today that could also send one out of the park. Got a little bit of wind blowing out. Pete Alonso, man, at 4,100. For some reason, I feel like I've been higher on the Mets as a team, probably a little bit too much this season, but I think he's got a good shot to send one out of the park against Humberto. And then Jose Abreu as well. I really like the White Sox today. It's cold there, but Abreu as well. He's a guy that I really like.
All right. Let's see. We covered most of it at first. I'm in agreement with most of those guys you mentioned. Nothing really else to add there. Will, I'll stick with you and we'll move to second base.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to stay in the same game here. I was just talking about the White Sox. And I know that, to me, this guy is what we consider to be kind of a professional hitter. Some of these guys you may not like, but it's because I'm building them into my stacks. And so I am going to have some Josh Harrison today. It's not going to be a sexy name on paper, but, a guy like him is someone I'm going to play. Jeff McNeil, you can get him in the outfield or at second on FanDuel. So I'm going to have a sprinkle of him as well. Once again, I probably don't have to sell you on the Blue Jays guys, but you got Santiago Espinal at second at 2,400. Pretty good value today from him. And then you got Biggio down here at 2,100, which is probably even better. I know he's in the 9 spot, but I don't care. Just wrap that thing around with Springer, Bichette, and Vlad, and your lineup's already different. And then of course, Yankees, I can play DJ all over the place. I can also play Gleyber Torres at second. He's 2,400. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of these guys today at second.
All right. Yeah. Interesting position. Again, I'm on the Twins. I kind of like Arias there in the leadoff spot. Torres is pretty cheap for the Yankees. Will mentioned McNeil. I think this is an interesting spot where you can get some of those value guys. I don't think you need to spend all the way up at the position, though you certainly could in a GPP build, but in a cash game setting, this is probably a save salary spot today. Keith, any thoughts at second for you?
Like a lot of the guys that you mentioned, Polanco also for the Twins has a decent price, switch hitter, so he'll hold the platoon advantage once they get into the bullpen there. Let's see here. Owen Miller is a cheap option with the platoon advantage at the top of the order for Cleveland. Just one guy that hasn't been mentioned, and then Brandon Lau at the top. Velasquez has been known to give up a home run or two in his lifetime, so definitely like Lau tonight.
Yeah, the Rays, you get the old Vincent Velasquez game. He could pitch, 4 shutout innings with 90 pitches in those 4 shutout innings, or he could, give up 5 runs in an inning and 2/3. You never know what you're going to get with him. So the White Sox definitely an interest, or the Rays definitely an interesting upside stack today. All right, Keith, take us to third.
All right. Josh Donaldson standing out here with the platoon advantage in Baltimore. Love that one quite a bit. Matt Chapman, we've mentioned liking Blue Jays quite a bit today. He's in a great spot. You can play Arias over here at third as well. He's very cheap today leading off. You touched on Gio Urshela. He is near minimum on DraftKings, only 2,100. So I like him a good amount too.
All right, Will, anything else for you at third base here? Lots of guys that get that second base and third base eligibility on Fanduel.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention those guys that I've already mentioned, but what I will say is, as much as I like, or I think we talked about Bailey Ober, like I don't mind Rafael Devers as a one-off. Like, just play him. I mean, he sends one across the fence. It might be the only home run they have. I'd be expecting him to score a few runs, but I think Devers is a really good play here, on the slate where, maybe we're kind of, we can't spend up everywhere. And to me, it's not a lot of spend ups on FanDuel. So I like that. You got Matt Chapman, who hasn't been, great every game, but I think, another spot with the Blue Jays where you can kind of plug him in. Eduardo Escobar is just kind of somebody I just keep playing because he's 3,600 and I feel like he's going to churn fantasy points. And one day you're going to wake up and he's going to hit 2 out of the park. So he's someone that I'm playing today. Once again, I'm going back to these White Sox. You got Jake Berger there. You can play Josh Harrison there. And I said I wouldn't mention him, but that's kind of what I'm doing. Anywhere that's a weak position, I'm using my stack to kind of fill it in.
All right. So just to recap here a little bit, we've got about 13 minutes to go until lock. Feel free to drop your questions in the RotoGrinders Discord. And we'll get those in the MLB Crunch Time chat, and we'll make sure we catch those as well. For some of you who might be watching, since this is a free show now, you might see some questions in the live stream chat channel as well. So I'll try to monitor the questions that we get in both of those chats and pass them along. But otherwise, mainly checking the MLB Crunch Time chat. All right, Will, I'll stick with you. Moving over to a shortstop here.
Yeah. So here's a shortstop that even I haven't mentioned. I'm not stacking this team, okay, but I am kind of one-offing some of these pieces. Didi Gregorius is 2,300 today against Eliezer Hernandez on Fan. Like he's been cheap, but I just think, this is a good spot for him. That's a little bit too cheap. You look at, let me go back. Christian Yelich, Willie Adames, against Dakota Hudson at home, 3,200. I'm not stacking this team, but I will be, take some one-off Willie Adames. He's a guy that's got a little bit of pop. If you go back up here, you look at Xander's 3,500. I definitely think by the end of the season, we're going to be getting him at 4K, 4,100 on FanDuel. So he's a guy that I'm going to be playing. And once again, I'm trying not to double up on these Yankees, but you get Gleyber Torres at second and shortstop. And so if you want to flip it a little bit, you can get him there and play. And I'm probably going to play Gleyber at shortstop and DJ at second. Like, that's probably what I'm going to do. So just want to put that out there as well.
All right, Keith, your thoughts on shortstop on FanDuel?
All right, we've got Carlos Correa here, another power right-handed bat for the Minnesota Twins. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate. I've got him tagged here. Bo Bichette be the Blue Jay, one of the top stacks of the day. Marcus Semien, we mentioned that Angels-Rangers game available on FanDuel. He's got the platoon advantage leading off for the Rangers, so like that quite a bit. And Francisco Lindor is off to a good start this season. Down year last year, but he looks like he's kind of returning to form, so I'll have a good amount of Lindor today.
I just tagged Correa as well. I like him a lot. I've tagged both Correa and Lindor, so I think those two guys are definitely in play on FanDuel. I think this is a spend up spot for me. Semien, you just got a whole lot of upside with some of these guys and should have the salary available to get a spend up at the position. So, all right, Keith, who you like in the outfield?
George Springer, another Blue Jay. Love them today. We've got Mike Trout on FanDuel only. Obviously play him anytime. Same with Bryce Harper and Shohei Ohtani. Just awesome options up at the top. Love Giancarlo Stanton today against the lefty. Home run park. Moving the fences back is not something that matters for a guy like Giancarlo Stanton. I like Tyler O'Neill with the platoon advantage today for the Cardinals. Lots of power there. And then I like the Phillies as well, Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos. Just Hernandez is not a pitcher that scares me. He gives up some power, so like them a good amount.
All right, agree on most of those plays. I think Randy Arozarena is pretty cheap on FanDuel today as well. Maybe he'll be fired up after getting ejected for throwing his bat 30 feet into the air yesterday after striking out. We'll see. He's like 5K on DK or something like that, but 2,800 on FanDuel. So don't mind playing him on FanDuel a little bit. All right, Will, what do you got in the outfield?
I keep trying to talk about the stacks that I'm playing just so people understand how serious I am about this. And I keep mentioning the White Sox, but the reason I keep mentioning them is because isn't this the day that the White Sox seriously go out and have like 12 runs in not the best weather? It's not optimal. It doesn't feel like it. But this team, they go out and somebody gets on base and they send somebody home and all of a sudden you look up and they've scored 8 runs in 3 innings. Love the White Sox today. Give me all the Luis Robert. Give me all the Eloy Jimenez I can handle. Don't mind a little bit of Adam Engel. We'll sprinkle him in as well. I mean, Bryce Harper, I don't have to sell you on Harper. He's 30% on. I'm not stacking the Phillies, but like I said, I will one-off them, and like Didi and Harper are 2 of my favorites. I think the Mets outfielders are good. You got Marte. You can get McNeil there. Dom Smith is playing today. You can get him in the outfield at 2,200. Really like the Mets. And then I'm not going to talk about the Blue Jays. It's probably going to be the number 1 team on the slate. And then you go back to the Yankees. You got Hicks at 25, Judge at 39, Stanton at 38. Like, these are primetime guys here in a good spot at Camden. So those are a lot of the pieces that I like.
All right. So you see basically Will likes the White Sox and Yankees in terms of stacks today. We have had some people in the chat asking about that. Keith, who you like for GPP stacks?
Yeah, I like the Yankees a good amount. You touched on it. They've kind of failed here the last couple of days, but this is still a team with massive power. Not buying this Baltimore pitching staff. So I like the Yankees a good amount. I think Philly is interesting. Just another team with a ton of power. Hernandez is not a bad pitcher by any means, but he's a pitcher that can give up some power, and the Phillies have plenty of it. Not a great park for power. I think that if they can get him out of the game a little bit early, that middle of the Marlins pen is pretty weak, and the Phillies have the power to hit it out of any park. So I like the Phillies as a lower owned stack.
Yeah, they're definitely a team that can explode pretty much any given day. They scored like 8 runs in the first 2 innings last night against the Marlins, so no problem with stacking those power bats in some GPPs. And that Angels Rangers game, don't sleep on that on FanDuel as well. A lot of people that are building lineups on DK you're just kind of not thinking about that game. And sometimes these one-off games that are only available on one of the sites end up going a little under-owned. So particularly the Angels side of that game, I think you can stack up in GPPs. All right, let's get to some questions, and then we can kind of filter in. I moved the screen share over to DraftKings, so we can filter in with some additional DraftKings thoughts on the, if you guys see any pricing differences or anything like that. But I want to make sure that we get the questions that are in the chat as well. So better single entry stack on DraftKings. JMVP asks, the Cardinals or the Indians? Who do you like better as a single entry stack? Will?
I'm going Cards. I'm not playing any Indians today. I've scratched them all out. Absolutely the Cardinals for me.
Yeah, as much as I try not to be a homer, the Cardinals have looked good in the early going, and their offense is built to hit left-handed pitching. So you get O'Neill, Goldie, and Arenado, and some of those guys in the middle of the order.
You're talking about Cards. Harrison Bader is the real lefty masher.
Bader's a lefty masher. Even Pujols still has some life in that bat against lefties. So it does worry me a little bit that this is the fourth game of the series and the Brewers haven't used their top relievers. They haven't used Boxberger, Williams, or Hader all weekend. So you probably are going to see those top end relievers from the Brewers today, regardless of the scenario. They might use some of them just to get them some work. But, if the Cardinals have 10 runs in 6 innings, that doesn't really matter. So I think they're interesting in a deeper GPP, obviously not the top stack, but those one-off power bats as well I think are interesting. Mark Flores asking about any favorable weather. Doesn't seem like there's anything huge in terms of positive impact with wind or anything like that today. David Peterson, Keith touched on him a little bit ago. I think he's all right, given the thin nature of the pitching slate. You're probably only looking at about 75 pitches top. So not a huge ceiling, but I think he's okay as a SP2 on DraftKings. I think I tagged him over there as well. So, all right. Achilles asks, Keith, DK Cash, Correa Donaldson, or Polanco Bichette?
Give me Correa Donaldson there.
All right. If you got any questions, drop them in the MLB Crunch Time chat in Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. We can take those questions as we get them in here. We've got 5 minutes left until lock. The Yankees-Orioles game is the first one to lock today, so make sure you get your players finalized from those games. Will, anything different for you on DraftKings compared to FanDuel today as far as who you're looking at or want to roster?
Well, I think for me on DraftKings, it's all about where do I want to fall for SP2. And the reason why I bring that up is because the Yankees are very expensive, right? Like they're $5,500 for Judge, $4,500 for Stanton. You do get Hicks at 33, LeMahieu at $48. So like they're a more expensive team on DraftKings. So as I've talked about, Nestor Cortez is kind of a lot more important for me there than FanDuel. Like he's important on FanDuel too. FanDuel is more to get a little bit different. On DK, I feel like I may actually need to play him. I like him better than Alex Wood, even though I know Wood had he came out of the gates. His pitch count was pretty good too. Actually, Cars, he was at 86 pitches his first game, which is, it's about as close to Manoah as we could get. But I think Cortez is really valuable there because I think the strikeout upside is there. I don't think he goes 6 innings. I actually think he goes 5. But I think in 5 innings, I think he has 8 Ks today. Like that's how comfortable I feel with Cortez. And because this Pittsburgh lineup is so bad, Cards, I don't really want to play Patrick Corbin, but I feel like I at least have to try. He's 6,500. I can play any bat I want, plug in Manoah. Patrick Corbin's awful, but is he worse than this Pittsburgh lineup? I'm going to say no, and then I'm going to let him prove me wrong. And if he doesn't get it done today, Cards, I won't play Patrick Corbin again this season. That I guarantee.
Not you, but I feel like some people have said that like 8 times, and I think they've used up their mulligans on it. But it's always tricky in these matchups where you've got bad pitchers against bad offenses. Like we've seen that all weekend with that Detroit Kansas City series. Of course, they're rained out today, but those games have been like 4-2 and 3-1. And so the bad pitching is won out so far against the bad offense. It wouldn't surprise me if Corbin does okay today. All right. Let's check for questions here. Any interest in Ashby as an SP2 on DraftKings? They're starting for the Brewers against St. Louis today. Keith, you got any interest in him?
I mean, I get you're trying to get different in that 6K range with Peterson there. He's probably the likely chalk, and Corbin as well. You touched on it though. This Cardinals lineup is very right-handed heavy, a lot of power from the right side. I mean, I don't mind it just because like the game theory aspect of it makes sense, but this is a tough matchup for Ashby. And I don't love the leash either. 68 pitches in his first start. I think he came out of the bullpen his first time out, but he did start once against Baltimore, 68 pitches. Probably not going to get more than 80 out of him today. So you would need some strikeouts from him.
Yeah, and that, it's just a tough ask. The Cardinals are actually the lowest strikeout team in the league so far. Not that I expect that to continue at that type of level, but you got the lowest strikeout team in the league. You got a lot of right-handed power, and you got 9 right-handed bats in that lineup today. So I don't mind Ashby as a pitcher. I just don't think today is the spot for him. Potential homerism notwithstanding. All right, Jay Sams asks, FanDuel single entry. Will, if you had 4,600 left, would you rather play Trout or Ohtani?
Good question. I still think Trout's the better hitter. Give me Trout.
Yeah, really tough question between those two guys. A lot of nights, unless you're stacking the Angels and playing them both. They're certainly both pretty strong plays. Keith, did you have anything else on DraftKings that you have interest in that we haven't already talked about?
No, I mean, I think we covered it pretty well. Maybe just one more guy out. Eliezer Hernandez, I mentioned liking the Phillies a good amount, but he is a guy who can flash some strikeout stuff. The Phillies strike out quite a bit. So it's a super high risk spot. But I could see that working out if you're like in a deep, large field GPP.
All right. With that, we are at roster lock. We don't have any additional questions in the Discord. And so we'll go ahead and get out of here. So enjoy the holiday, everybody. Happy Easter to all of you. Enjoy the baseball, enjoy the basketball, enjoy the football. Maybe some of you today watching the USFL games. Plenty of stuff to keep you entertained on this holiday. So wishing you all a great Sunday. Thanks to Keith. Thanks to Will for joining me. Thanks to Eli for producing behind the scenes for us. And we'll see you back here tomorrow with another start of a work week. So have a great Sunday, everybody, and we will see you later.